Firstly, thank you for joining us. We're so excited to be here with you today, and you are in good company. We actually have a very diverse audience from more than about 35 countries here today, and they represent a range of industries from higher education to nonprofits to a variety of Fortune 500 companies. We have 21 founders, 14 managers, 13 CXOs, 11 directors, 8 community managers, and at least 1 author. So we have quite an eclectic bunch for our discussion today. And again, we're so thankful for you joining us. All right, let's see those poll results. It looks as though we have also a variety of interests in terms of what our community here today, our audience members, are interested in learning more about. Everything from networking opportunities to career advancement to driving community impact, as well as D&I initiatives. And we're in luck because a good amount of these topics are going to be covered today. So again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to covering many of these today. As a friendly reminder, you can ask questions throughout the webinar in the Q&A box. We're going to do our best to answer them live at the end of the session, but if we're unable to, we will follow up in an email after the webinar for more information. So without further ado, we are going to introduce ourselves. My name is Lucia, and I'm the head of US Operations and General Manager at Hivebrite. I'm going to be moderating today's discussion. I'm delighted to be joined by the leaders of LEAD, an NGO dedicated to advancing women in the consumer products and retail industry through education, leadership, and business development, and the Fourth Floor, an innovative ecosystem reimagining the boardroom, investment, and how we support female entrepreneurship. Annelie is the spokesperson and chair executive committee of LEAD Network. She has had marketing and sales roles in companies including Westland Cheese Specialties, Campo Frio Food Group, and since 2012, she has worked as an independent management and marketing consultant. Breen is the founder of the Fourth Floor. She is a C-suite executive. She has experience and expertise in commercial contracting, human resources, employment matters, and more. She also personally invests in startups and enjoys serving as a board advisor to startup and growth companies. Kat is the co-founder of the Fourth Floor. She's passionate about women's initiatives and evolving new opportunities to support changemakers, leaders, and founders. She's also an inventor and a successful business person. She's invented and brought to market popular consumer beauty products, one we might know, the Petty Spacer, and launched an upscale silk fashion line. So let's get into our questions. And again, everyone, to all of our panelists, thank you so much for joining us today. We're looking forward to our discussion. So as we get off the heels of Women's History Month and Equal Pay Day, we're thrilled to kickstart a unique discussion on building supportive women communities. Multiple studies show that a more integrated and diverse workplace leads to positive ROI for a company's bottom line and its people. When it comes to creating the right networks and communities to support women, why did you feel the launch of the LEAD Network and the Fourth Floor was integral in driving impact for women? And what mission are you looking to serve? Perhaps Annelie, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Lucia. A very big question. As LEAD Network, we started in 2012 with, I think, only 40 women. And by now, our membership is close to 12,000. We have members across the world, but the main of them in Europe, where our focus is in the retail and CPG industry. We found that a lot of women ran into different kinds of barriers trying to progress their career, be it to middle management level or the C-suite. And we decided to form a group to start helping these women, but also help the companies where they work. And as a result, we are not a women-only network. We're inclusive of men because we think we need the men to be able to change. And currently about 20% of our membership is male. So We have lots of what we call corporate members. So we have partnerships with large corporations or companies like Unilever, Procter & Gamble, or Ahold Delhaize, only CPG and retail. They partner with us and we help them develop their D&I programs. So, for example, we have a maturity assessment tool that companies can apply and see how far they've progressed on the level. We help them with finding each other in the network and sharing best practices and further develop their inclusivity and diversity programs. We don't only do that for our partners, but we also have programs that focus on the individual members. For them, networking is very important, like you saw in the poll in the beginning of this webinar. Same for our members. So we have created groups, local chapters per country, or functional chapters, for example, one in supply chain and logistics, where women run into specific issues. We organize events around these chapters. And most of our chapters are run by volunteers, so by members. Having said that, it's also about education, as you introduced us. So we do a lot of webinars that help in personal development or share best practices. We have a mentor-mentee program. We have are piloting a leadership development program on inclusive leadership. So there's lots of things we try to do for our members. And our motto is also doing, not trying, and by the members, for the members. So we are largely volunteer operated, and we work very hard to get our members' opinions and include that in our developments and see that we develop and offer what they need.
Thank you so much, Annelie. And I know that we're going to actually go into a little bit more in terms of the actual engagements and programming in a minute. So before we do that, I'd like to turn it to Kat and to Breen as well to talk a little bit more about the fourth floor mission and what impact that they're looking to drive.
Sure, and Kat, I'll jump in first. I'm sure you can second and or add to everything that I'll say, but I think a great place to start with the fourth floor is sort of our bigger picture vision. So our vision, our North Star, is really about democratizing access to money and to power. And we're doing that in order to level the playing field for women and drive systemic change. So that really, that's really our bigger picture vision. That's what's motivating us. We're doing that by bringing differentiated networks together into a single community that shares this common dedication, which is to create and exchange mutually beneficial opportunities. And we believe that by doing that, that will unleash untapped wealth and innovation into the world. Our mission, a bit more specific, is to build a community, which is what we're doing, and Hivebrite is enabling us to do that effectively, a community that is dedicated to increasing the number of women on the boards and cap tables of women-led startups. So these are for-profit, smaller companies, and we're doing that so that we can initiate and advance for-profit board careers and also the creation of investment portfolios, and then empower women entrepreneurs and ensuring women's access to capital overall. So that's the vision, that's the mission. I think another great way to contextualize the fourth floor and why we're doing what we're doing and how we came to be is just what I think of as the origin story, which is sort of how what frustration I experienced that led me to come up with the idea in the first place, which was my background as a general counsel for mid-size, rapidly growing tech companies. I realized that there was an access issue for women like me, for me and women like me. And it's not, I know we're not the only ones with this access issue, but that's where my focus was. And it had to do with the starter first for-profit board opportunities and then investment opportunities that go with it, and just the ability to accrue equity. And that was something that my male colleagues just had access to, and I didn't, and nothing sinister about it, no bad intention, just sort of the way the chips fell in terms of kind of who's tapping who on the shoulder and who's kind of in the loop and not in the loop. So when I realized there was this access issue, I thought, okay, well, there's an incredible opportunity here, because me and women like me, we really want to have a place to go where we can access these types of opportunities, where right now it's not visible. It's not, there isn't, a marketplace or a place you could go. And once I discovered women entrepreneurs have similar access issues, for them, not about initiating their for-profit board careers, but it is about accessing funding and opportunities. That's when I knew bringing those two groups together essentially created a novel marketplace that didn't exist before, of opportunities for both sides. So that was a mouthful. That was
No, that's perfect. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I can echo this as someone who actually moved careers. So about 6 or 7 years ago, from finance into technology. One of the greatest things that I found was, how do I access the right networks to understand where the potential investment is, where the right contacts should be, who should I be reaching out to, when, and eventually it took some time, some digging, but it would have been great to have a certain marketplace like this to have access to immediately. And I think this leads us pretty nicely right to our next question about who these networks are looking to serve, the women joining the your respective organizations, what they expect to receive from the community. How do you ask them to contribute? I was watching a few testimonials that the floor had sent over to me, and a specific quote had stuck out to me. Someone had indicated it's an ecosystem of give and get where women are truly supporting each other. It was a really lovely quote. And perhaps we'll start with the fourth floor on this question. What are the expectations of the members who are joining? You've touched on it a little bit, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more as to their stories.
And Kat, do you want to take this from the founder perspective?
Sure. Yes. Thank you. I'm kind of the representative of the other stakeholder in our community. On my background as a founder, I experienced a lot of these pain points that we're addressing, being the only woman in the room, trying to raise funds, being allocated as the girl in the corner versus, the woman that invented the product. So when I first spoke to Breen about what she was building, it really spoke to me, excuse me. And so we have, I believe in this larger mission that we're doing. I also have a personal mission, and that is to bring awareness to all founders, invite them into our community, because I know what I was missing as a founder, and it can be a very lonely experience, and you always think that you don't have the network, so maybe you don't deserve the network, and that's just simply not true. And the generosity of people is there. You just need to tap into it. So just to expand a little bit on that, is just we, our stakeholders are what Breen described, and also just really getting all the founders on board and supporting them with a larger community.
Right. And one thing I would add to that is just a lot of founders, through no fault of their own, just might not realize that an advisory board, it's never too early to start to build one out, and that they are free to do so, that they should do so, and that there are so many potential candidates for that advisory board that are interested, that want that where they see that as a very real opportunity for them. So, the generosity thing is totally true. Also, there is a mutual exchange of value there that, women entrepreneurs might just not realize that they have something that this group really wants and needs. And then I think this is also very true when you get to a governing board and there's independent director seats and those opportunities. Similarly, this information, lawyers, information's power. We tend to, we're not necessarily shouting everything from the rooftop. So we are often the gatekeeper of some of that information, and that can unnecessarily make things mysterious when they don't need to be. So I think we're demystifying, we're supporting, empowering entrepreneurs to understand how and why they should build out advisory boards and think about governing boards. And that is creating a lot of opportunities that then are very attractive to the other stakeholders in the ecosystem, like Kat was saying, the board candidates, like general counsels and, other executives.
I would love to expand on that one more time, just because anecdotally, my story, had I known that I could build out this advisory board early, it would have saved me a lot of, expenses, just with the idea of that I could have had a general counsel or a legal representative on my board that wouldn't necessarily give me legal advice, but would advise me on how to best spend my money on the legal things that I needed. And that, that'll help founders preserve their runway, and it's a way to enlist experts that you then don't have to go subcontract for. So an advisory board is a precious and great thing, and founders should know that they should build it out early. And then, yes, it also, pays off for the other stakeholders as they want to, be invited into investing in startups and have those kind of opportunities.
Thank you both. And I definitely concur as a founder and an entrepreneur myself. So I'm excited to actually delve into the topics of how, and I think I'd love to turn into a little bit more to the actual programming, the engagements, some of the specifics of, we understand why now the organizations exist, who we're looking to serve, and how are you getting it done. So I'd love to perhaps shift gears a little bit, maybe move back to lead and start with Annelie to talk a little bit more about programming, engagements. Annelie, we have, I believe, a little bit of a slide to talk a little bit about your different initiatives, the Superpowers Now initiative, a new pilot that you're looking to launch, the Inclusive Leadership Program. And in that, please do feel free to share how members interact with each other, how you're utilizing and leveraging those volunteers. Would be super interested to know. Also, you mentioned 20% of the membership was also male. So I'd love to learn how they are also incorporated in all of these programs as well.
Yes. Well, of course, the past year was a strange year. I remember us as Lead Network this same time of the year last year when the pandemic hit. And we had lots of local networking events planned in our chapters. And what we usually did is we developed some programs, topics of interest, things on D&I, but also on personal skills or development or mentor programs that we would run in all the different chapters in the different countries. And we had to all of a sudden all switch to virtual. So we used to do maybe 4 or 5 webinars a year. We did over 80 last year.
Wow.
Yes. And what we also do on a yearly basis is we have a big annual event, a 2-day event where we usually get about 800 to 900 guests. And we do that in a European city. And we had to switch that to virtual too. And we still had 900 attendees over 3 days joining us. And it worked well because a lot of people get their inspiration and energy from meeting each other and exchanging their personal stories and getting inspired by those. And like what Kat said, there's quite a lot of women that often feel the only woman in the room, and they lack female role models. So that's part of what our network offers. They can build their network. We coach them on networking. They can find female role models. And we have all these different programs. And to your question, we decided men should be inclusive because they're part of the solution. I mean, our ultimate purpose is to reach gender parity on all levels in the business. And we have a special program called Engaging Men, is where we have all male workshops at events, and to help them grow awareness on what it means to be inclusive. So what's inclusive language? What's inclusive behavior? And with some very senior women present in the room, what's their experience and how does that feel? And the funny thing is, if we have a big annual conference, for example, we have these CEOs, male CEOs, come and speak sometimes, and they are usually quite offset of being in front of a large room that's merely filled with women instead of men. So they feel a little bit out of place, and they have to get used to that. But some we had return because they were great speakers and they had a very good story over the years. And some have started bringing their daughters to see them speak at such an event. So that's just a sidestep, but that's how awareness and engaging men can help them help us change the industry and become more diverse and inclusive. One of the programs we developed and still working on, but have launched last year, by the end of last year, is Superpowers Now. So, and that's to make the individual female or male aware that you can change and further diversity and inclusion every day by every little action you do. And we sort of labeled 5 different superpowers. And it includes a step plan that, there's little workbooks behind it, and you can either apply it in your company or in your team, or you can do it individually that help you, discover what are my superpowers, what are my stories, what are my good examples, where can I help, and how can you further grow or empower yourself, and how can you then enact? So how do you act in your surrounding to further diversity and inclusion? So that's one of the programs, and we have a mentor-mentee program. We do reverse mentoring. We have skill building webinars. So there's lots of different programs, and we did find over the years that the leadership style is changing. And a lot of members wanted to talk about different styles of leadership and what new leadership looks like. So we did some workshops on events, and we did some webinars, and we ended up developing and piloting last year an inclusive leadership training program where we create groups. This time a group of 30 people, and we create tables. So we do a bit of content, we do a bit of discussion, and the good thing is we use Hivebrite to do that. So we did create a special group that's only for participants, and we do share documents and videos there. But we also use the tool for them to have networking sessions and interact to help each other with the materials and the discussions that it calls for. So that's just a few of the things we do. There's much more, but for us the chapters are very important, and these are completely driven by volunteers. So what we also do at the annual event, for example, we have the Excellent Volunteer Award. So we really do try to award volunteers, make them stand out if they do exceptionally well. And for some volunteers, we also make sure that we sort of, if they completed a project or did something very well, we write a letter of recommendation for them, and we share their results or their achievements with their manager, if it's a corporate member, and if they like that. And that has helped even women to build their network and find the sponsors you need inside your company to get the visible projects and to get the visible assignments and to further develop your career. So we also support individuals in that, if they in our network, in our group. So yeah, there's lots to tell. I don't know if there's any questions, but And like what I previously said, our corporate partners, there we have special programs. And one of the things we do every 2 years is that we do a scorecard of the industry. So we try to measure our progress. We always say you need to measure what you need to get. So if you don't measure, it's not going to change. So there we report the progress on a number of women in the C-suite and see how the industry progresses against that.
It sounds as though the Lead Network is doing a phenomenal job in a variety of corporate initiatives, both in terms of coaching individuals to also partnering with the corporations that those individuals work at to provide visibility and also career progression, which is something I think is so impactful as it really helps that individual, if you will, their career's bottom line by giving them that access internally as well. So these are phenomenal programs. And yes, please, as Annelie mentioned, if you do have questions, put them in the question box and we're going to get to those questions at the end of the webinar. I love too this juxtaposition of it, Annelie, because we are talking about all of the resources that you're providing to women in the corporate landscape, right? That's absolutely necessary to being inclusive voices, both on the female and male perspective. And then also the juxtaposition between entrepreneurship then with Breen and Kat on the 4th floor, and how once you step out of that structured corporate environment and now you're kind of left as a founder and an entrepreneur, and that structure a bit is now built by yourself and the networks also that you have around you, then what resources do you go to? And with that, I'm going to transition back to Breen and Kat a bit to talk a little bit more about those resources and those initiatives that you have in your community for those individuals who have, like myself, stepped out of the larger corporate environment and plunged into being an entrepreneur and said, wow, I'm the only person in the room now. It's actually happened to me at an event where someone at a VC event, I was the only female there, and someone felt the need to remind me actually if I noticed I was the only person of that gender there, which I thought was very interesting. But I'll let you both take it away at some of the initiatives and programs that you're working on.
Right, Lucia, I'm just thinking it was probably a short line at the bathroom for you at that event. If you like,
short, yeah.
I've had that experience myself. I think very strikingly, actually, at an ed tech private equity portfolio company conference where there were literally less than 5 women. And there were hundreds of people there. It was like C-level executives in ed tech companies. They were all men. And so when there was the bathroom break, it was amazing because for the first time ever, it was much easier and better for the 3 women that were at this conference, and the men were like wrapped around the room. So that was quite striking. Of course, the first topic on the agenda at that conference was D&I, but yet it was never mentioned that there were no women in the room, which I thought was pretty telling. But that is no longer what I am focused on day to day. So and for good reason. So now I'm thinking about this. But yeah, so I see the slide you have up, and this is great. And I will start and then turn it over to Kat to talk about some of these initiatives and programs that we have launched at the 4th floor. And the room is first, on your list here. And what that is the board seat exchange. And this is really cuts to the heart and soul of everything that the 4th floor is about. When I was speaking about my experience as a GC and experiencing this frustration because of the lack of access, that really connecting the dots there turned into a board seat exchange. Because what we realized is that women entrepreneurs, they oftentimes they can benefit from, they need advisory board members and directors. There are all of these women who want to be those advisory board members and first-time directors because they're anxious to start their for-profit board career, because that is the way that they create the inroads that help them down the road 5 to 10 years get the higher profile, very lucrative public company for-profit board seats, or even larger private company board seats that are sought after and, you know, fiercely, people are fiercely competing to get those positions. A really great way to set yourself up and position yourself is by having for-profit board experience early on. And you do it with a great way to get that and start is with startups. And so the room, the board seat exchange, is a place where we are proactively sourcing these starter board opportunities, whether they're advisory board opportunities, board observer positions, independent director positions, or mentor sponsor positions intended to graduate into advisory board, independent director. We also have a fourth floor coined category called the angel advisor. So if, you know, some startups want to add to their advisory board, but they would really prefer to have an angel investor take that advisory board position, that's fine too. So inside our board seat exchange, the room, this marketplace, there are these board positions listed. And then we also have the other stakeholders in our constituency who are the board candidates. We have them create essentially candidate listings that also appear in that board seat exchange in the room. And so the room is two parts. You have open roles and you have candidates. And then the members in our community, everyone is encouraged to submit a listing, and they can peruse and look and see, you know, what opportunities are posted. And so that obviously is very much, you know, heart and soul, like we're seeding a crop of board opportunities that exist today that did not exist yesterday. And that's, you know, that's the unique value proposition that now for our members, they join the fourth floor and they can have access to those novel opportunities. So that's the board seat exchange, the room. The back room really pretty soon after creating the room and understanding how to have a board seat exchange for these under the radar early for-profit opportunities, it became clear there needed to be a back room, because you cannot separate money from power and you can't separate investment from board seats. They just go together. So, you know, one reason why these early stage company board opportunities are so valuable is because they come with equity. Almost all the time. You know, there's not a rule, but you know, it's always negotiated between the parties, but that is standard. And accruing equity in startups is valuable for a lot of reasons. And then if you extrapolate that out just a bit further, having access and opportunity to start investing and being empowered to make angel investments directly to early stage companies, this is valuable, and this is something that women need to be doing, and it's to the mutual good. You know, it really is a rising tide that's raising all ships. So that's the back room. Back room is not fully launched. It's launching in phases. Hopefully, phase 1 will be launched this month, which is an arm's length angel investment club. Phase 2 is the fourth floor itself, raising a fund so that we can invest in our entrepreneurs that are benefiting from our ecosystem by building out their boards, because we believe in the investment thesis, and we would, you know, ultimately down the road hope to be sharing in that upside as a way to power the fourth floor ecosystem. But I'll stop talking and turn it over to Kat to cover so many of the other wonderful bits of programming we're doing.
Thanks, Breen. No, thanks for describing those initiatives. I just would add or give the perspective of the community, because these are the initiatives are the underpinnings of what our mission is, but what we also want to do is make sure that we're building a community around them, because we know that relationships are built on trust. And so when you're talking about exchanging board seats, you know, we make sure that people are getting to know each other. They're on, you know, on the same wavelength as far as what the expectations are of each other, so that you can really have a valuable conversation. You know, you're not necessarily to fill your board, you're really looking to fill your knowledge gaps. So we make sure that we're, you know, introducing or giving the venue to be introduced to people that will fill those knowledge gaps. So that is always top of mind when we're doing our programming, and making sure that we offer a lot of different kind of scenarios where you can meet people. Some are very structured, like, you know, an accelerator or a fellowship program. Some are more light touch and fun, like happy hours. But at the root of every program, every initiative is the give get. And you know, how can I help you? How can you help me? And how can we build our relationship? And so I see you brought up the spread the love sheet slide. This is one of our prize public initiatives. We love it because what we're doing is giving founders an opportunity to ask for an introduction in a public way. And we invite everyone to go in there and look and see which relationships you can facilitate, because women founders don't have the networks we keep referencing. And so we're creating it through the sheet, and it's just a way to help them, even though they don't necessarily need help, but I guess I want to say support them. And, you know, sometimes it's that one introduction that can, you know, bring a startup to stardom. And we want to see if we can make it happen. And it's fun because we watch it happen. We're watching the connections happen. I sometimes feature them on LinkedIn, and you can read the comments. Introductions are made, and it's really, really, really satisfying.
It is. And sorry, one shameless plug with some of our more structured programming includes boot camps. And so we have the board boot camp, which has been a cornerstone. We've been doing it for a while. It's a wonderful introduction to the ecosystem. It's a great way. It's valuable in and of itself. So attending a board boot camp, you might walk out of that board boot camp with an advisory opportunity. You might be inspired based on that board boot camp and the work you do, the templates and materials we provide, so that you could reach out and speak to a startup that's not part of the fourth floor, but some other company, and land your own board seat that way. So it's a valuable piece of programming in and of itself, but also it's a great introduction to the fourth floor, and a lot of people attend and then end up applying to join the fourth floor. So it's open to fourth floor members, also to the public, and that is the board boot camp. There's one coming up on June 3rd, and I think that we have created a discount code for anyone in this audience who wants to attend, which we can put in the chat, HB 2021, for a very sizable discount. And then we also are doing our very first investment boot camp, April 20th, and it's a two-part camp, so April 20th, April 22nd. That also will put a link in the chat to sign up in case anyone wants to attend. And our board boot camp and investment boot camp is intended for both entrepreneurs and for either prospective investors or prospective board candidates. So they attend this camp together. So they're meeting each other just in the camp, but also it's a joint education and reframe about, you know, where those incentives are aligned, and it helps both parties move forward. So either you're a startup and you need to raise money or build out your board, or you're a candidate, you want to invest or become a board member, it's intended for you. So just had to plug those board boot camps. And like Kat said, there's lots and lots of other programming we're doing. All of it has that same larger goal.
Thank you both. And it sounds as though we could probably go on for a whole nother hour in terms of all of the programs, initiatives, and impact that these organizations are making. Thank you so much. I definitely want to leave some time, a few minutes for audience questions here. So I know that we have a few questions coming in. We do ask, if you have a question or two, please do be sure to put it in the Q&A now. As we look to collect a few questions here, the first question for Annelie. I love the idea of having leadership initiatives for women, but also programs for men and building them as allies. What kind of feedback do you receive on this type of program for male allies? How do you identify the right male participants?
So about identifying the male participants first, of course, some of them have already joined our network, but a lot of the female members help identify the male members. So they are colleagues or partners that have an interest. We see quite a lot of managers that have received comments from females in their team, and would like to understand a bit more or learn how they can, you know, themselves play a role in improving circumstances. A large motivator for men is the fact that they have daughters, and they also want to have a good career opportunity for their daughters. We run the program with some females, and it's run by men for men. So it's like a safe environment to have the discussion. and to share the experiences. We do a net promoted score of our program from programs from 0 to 5, and this one is usually above 4.5. So for men, it's really helpful and an eye opener. And we keep the teams relatively small. So what happens is that they have a bit of a network and meet new men and have an opportunity to build a contact and share further experiences or questions. And we rerun it. We rerun the workshops. So if usually at events, etc., they connect and reshare experiences. So that's how we do that.
Thank you, Annelie. And I know from personal experience, I've attended certain workshops, not through LEAD, but with other organizations as well, that have an inclusive mindset to this conversation. And I found so much value having both genders or all genders in the room. Okay, our next question, the fourth floor. This is for the fourth floor. Have you evolved or pivoted your value proposition? Or did you already know what your members wanted from the platform when you launched? How did you monetize from day one? Or did you wait until you had a significant amount of members in your group before monetizing?
I can take this. We always knew we had to build it first. So definitely we were not monetizing fully from the start. It was building community, and we had to do that first to really, before we could really see how it would be most effective to monetize the value. So I guess it was always a waiting game. As far as like, have we evolved or pivoted? I think, I mean, I guess there's many, we were always very, very open-minded about, you know, how it could grow and evolve in all the little ways, which I think is very necessary to be flexible and to be responsive when you see an opportunity. But as far as like kind of the bigger picture, what value we were bringing, I feel like that has been very consistent from the start, but figuring out, you know, who exactly the stakeholders are and how you're monetizing that with those stakeholders, like who's bearing the brunt of the cost, where are there other opportunities to find mutual value that you could monetize that you didn't see before. Like that has certainly happened. And I guess, and there is one, I know we don't have very much time, but one thing that we have inside our platform that just came into being organically that we didn't really know, like we had an inkling, but we didn't really know what it would look like or how important it would be, is something called the marketplace, not to be exchanged with the board seat, with the room and the back room, so the board seat exchange and the investment club. There's also just a marketplace, which we're still kind of in the initial phases of building out, but we see a lot of potential there when it comes to monetization that was not so obvious at the start. So, and that marketplace is founders, entrepreneurs that have products, goods and products to sell, but also entrepreneurs that have service offerings that make sense for other constituents in the ecosystem, and then expert service providers in our member base where it's, again, to the mutual good for them to make their expert service available, say at a discount, to members that are interested in purchasing it. So I'm not sure if I answered the question, and I'm not sure, Kat, if you have anything to add.
Thank you. I think we probably have we have 1 more minute left, so perhaps I will ask a quick question that is on the board here, if we can maybe get through it in 30 seconds each. This question is directed towards the fourth floor, but I think it has to do with mentorship. So I think, Annelie, you might also add some perspective here, and then we'll close it out. So if you want to answer this question and then add any parting thoughts, any of the panelists. The question is actually asking, give-get seems to be an underlying value running through the fourth floor community. Do you also have a mentoring program in mind that you offer with this theme? And generally, what are the themes of mentorship programs, Annelie, perhaps that you've had in the LEAD network?
Yes, we do run mentor programs yearly, and the benefit we can offer over in company mentorship programs is that we can do mentorship across companies. We can do them from retail to CPG, but we also like to do a bit of reverse mentoring. So, for example, male CEOs or CEOs being mentored by up and coming young professionals. And that is for very interesting insights on both. So you can really leverage your network and your specific purpose to do specific mentoring. That is very thoughtful.
Interesting. Kat and Breen.
I'll just add that I think that we like to think of our community as one, and that we're one big accelerator. And within that accelerator, we also operate as a mentor. And as we get people together, they're sponsoring each other, they're mentoring each other, they're helping each other, and then solidifying those transactional, outcome-driven relationships at the end. So it's an all-inclusive mentorship program.
Awesome. Well, unless there's any final parting thoughts from our panelists, we want to first thank everyone in the audience for participating today and your questions. I know we actually had a slew of questions we didn't get to, so we'll do our best to follow up in an email, share some additional information, maybe have our panelists back for another discussion at a later time. And of course, we want to really thank all of our panelists here today, the fourth floor and lead. First, thank you for your participation, but two, thank you for the impact and the work that you're doing in the communities that you're serving. So we appreciate that, and we hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.